Hello and welcome to another Skaredcast Tactica video. Today we are discussing the use and role of the coveted Mandrakes in the new book. That's right, I said Mandrakes. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another Skaredcast tactical video. Today we're talking about the new Dark Eldar release, and this is video 11 in our tactical series of videos. So make sure you go and check out all the others that I've done so far. And check out the comments too, lots of great comments on how to use the units, on different ideas. So today we get to chat a little bit about Mandrakes. That's right, Mandrakes. Now of course this video will be in two parts. The first designed to talk to the more green-skinned player, not by orc, I mean more like new player. And the second talking about the subtleties of use of the Mandrakes. But let's face it, I think we're all pretty new when it comes to Mandrakes, as they never used to get used ever. So let's get started. Within the realm of Eldar lurk the Mandrakes, vile terrors that can pull themselves into reality through another being's shadow. Their inky skin writhes with forbidden runes, and their faces shift and flow. One moment sealing over in an expressionless mask, the next parting like a wound filled with needle teeth. It is said that once a mandrake has chosen its prey, nothing stays in its inexorable pursuit, and no barrier will hold it back. Mandrakes on the hunt are silent, but for the occasional ragged gasp or hiss. Their violent onset is heralded by a thin rime of creeping ice and susurrs of half-heard whispers. When mandrakes fall upon their victims, they do so in a sudden explosion of ferocity, sinuous stealth cast aside in favor of piercing screams and the maddening hacking of flesh with glossy outsized surgical blades. Mandrakes. I'm very pleased to be talking about Mandrakes. The models are stunning. I love the unit itself. And thank you Games Workshop for making them usable in our games of Warhammer 40,000. The great Games Workshop giveth and taketh away. So let's go through the stat line, shall we? There's a Mandrake, and the upgraded sergeant is called a Night Fiend. They are both weapon skill and business skill 4. Strength 4, so they're stronger than your average Dark Eldar. And toughness 3. They are 1 wound with initiative 5. They have a base of 2 attacks. The Night Fiend, of course, has 3. And their leadership is 8, and the Night Fiend is an extra point of leadership, with no save whatsoever. They just don't have any save, not even a t-shirt save. Now, A unit composition is a minimum of 3 Mandrakes at 12 points a model. Wow, they got cheaper. They're relatively cheap. They can be taken in small squads of 3. That, you know, a unit of 3 is half the cost of a unit of, say, incubi. And they have some really cool special rules. So, let's go through them real quick, and then we'll discuss the nuances of using Mandrakes. They come with Bale Blast, which is a shooting attack. It is an 18-inch ranged weapon to shoot. It is Strength 4 and AP 4, and it is an Assault 2 Soul Blaze. That's actually really good. AP 4 and Strength 4 is a decent shooting at 18 inches and 2 shots apiece, meaning they can take out scouts, scouts and Necron warriors and fire warriors, and, you know, anything that is like a guardsman. Just there's no save; they have to be in cover, and in order to save. Soul Blaze is a nice little addition. It means that once there's an unsaved wound that happens, the unit kind of bursts into flames, and you can do additional damage, which is kind of handy. And I like the dynamic of that rule, especially having it. Now, I like that they start with the shooting, and it really comes into play with the other rules. So they have a close combat weapon, just 1 close combat weapon, so they don't get any extra attacks for 2 close combat weapons. Now, where they have special rules, let's see, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 special rules. So for a 12-point model, that's a ton of special rules. They do have fear, they cause fear. So they're spooky. They have fleet, so they're fast. They have move through cover, which makes them ignore the negative penalties for charging through cover, and not the initiative penalty, just the distance penalty. And they roll 3 dice when moving through difficult terrain, picking the highest. They have night vision, where they have a shooting weapon, so that's great. They have power from pain. Fantastic. Turn 2, feel no pain. Turn 3, feel no pain, like regular feel no pain. Turn 4, furious charge. Turn 5, fearless. Boom. Fantastic. Okay. They are shrouded and they have stealth. Now these two, of course, stack, so it's a +3 to your cover saves. Meaning in the open, they have a 4+ cover, and in things like buildings, they have like a 2+ cover, which is really cool. They're basically really hard to kill with shooting, unless you run into ignore cover weapons, in which case they just die, because they have no saves whatsoever of any kind. So they do have a few options. The unit is minimum of 3, and you can add up to 7 more models, making them up to 10. And one model can be upgraded to a Night Fiend for 10 points, which is your Sergeant upgrade. I would only do this in a larger unit, so that you don't fall back, and making them Leadership 9 can be quite handy. So, what are Mandrakes? Mandrakes are a disruption unit. They have infiltrate, fantastic. So you just place them, you know, outside your deployment zone. You can wait for your opponent to deploy and then put them down if you're going first. If you're deploying first, sorry. So you can use them to counter deploy. Infiltrate allows them to outflank, so you can outflank with them, especially if your opponent is smart enough to put the objectives near the edges of the board. And they can cause a lot of havoc on your opponent by leaving them in cover, especially if they don't have any ignore cover rule weapons or any flamers or anything like that. They're very easy to hide, so you can find a place out of line of sight and put them really close to the enemy, or leave them hidden out of the sight, depending on how big the game is. I've been playing at 1500 points a lot, and running just the unit of 5 that I own, and it's been fun. They're not too expensive. They're about 5 points less than a double cannon venom for 5, and they shoot almost as much, and they're more durable, with stealth and shrouded. So, they have 10 shots instead of 12, and yes, it's at 18 inches, but it is strength 4. So against anything that's toughness 3, or, anything that's toughness 3, it's actually easier to wound, because you're not just wounding on a flat 4+, you're wounding on a 3+. Plus it's strength 4, so you can use it against armor 10 tanks. Plus it has soul blaze, so, if you shoot a unit and you don't, kill it off, and it just keeps on burning a little guy at a time, especially if it's like guardsmen, and they, the soul blaze just ignores their armor anyway. Believe me, I know. I've played Helldrakes. We've all played Helldrakes. That soul blaze can be a pain in the neck, when it starts killing your models without it actually having to shoot you. So I like that. It makes me happy inside that my Mandrakes are usable. So use it as a disruption unit, put it on flanks, place it on objectives, force your opponent to deal with them. Because it's such a cheap unit, you can kind of ignore it, and then your opponent might even forget about him, and then bring him out later in the game. I did that one game too, and then my opponent was like, "Oh man, now I have to deal with those guys too." So, you can do a whole bunch of different things with them. And we haven't really seen any tactics come from Mandrakes, simply because they had not been used in the previous book. So this is now more geared towards the veteran Dark Eldar players. But now it's time to see what Mandrakes are made out of. They're cheap, they have a good weapon, they're really cheap, they have a good weapon, and their rules are fantastic. Fear is something that a lot of people just dismiss, but against armies that have not fearless or they show no fear, remembering that fear can be great, especially when combining it with things like wargear, like the Helm of Misery to -2 leadership, or armor misery, or the Coven formations, -1 leadership to everybody within 12, and then combining that with the Mandrakes. Key targets for the Mandrakes are backfield squishy objective holding units like Acolyte squads and little units of Necron warriors or Immortals, or little Kabbalite warrior units of other Dark Eldar armies, or little scout units, or little combat squads from Space Marines that are just sitting at the backfield. Nice thing about the Mandrakes is you can keep them at a fair distance, shooting away with their shooting weapon, their Bale Blast, and then waiting for power from pain to beef them up to respectable levels, and then charge them in, say, turn 4 when they get Furious Charge, making them strength 5. It's nothing out of this world, but hey, that could catch some people off guard. You could even charge a tank and get its rear armor and just kind of rip it to shreds if it gets too close. But as a Dark Eldar player, you want to have as many different avenues of pressure as physically possible. So on the table, the table's only finitely big. It's a 6x4 or a 4x4, an 8x6 or an 8x12, whatever it is you like playing on. And having a little unit that, first of all, you can use to disrupt your enemy, and secondly, is durable enough from shooting with the stealth and shrouded that they can just take shots from the enemy and soak up firepower that's then not going to your main core of Raiders and Venoms and Talos and Grotesques and whatever it is that you're throwing at them in the real space raid. Fluff-wise as well, Mandrakes are really cool. And they got rid of the horrible leader, the Decapitator dude, that was pointless. Mostly because there's no model for him. And if there's a model by the time you watch this, then hooray, I'm glad there is. I hope the rules are useful. Other than that, personally I'm going to be using a small unit. I'm tempted to use bigger units, but I kind of like the idea of a small, 4 4-man unit, really. 4 to 8, right? 4, 6, or 8. Really being so that, you know, it's not enough that your enemy wants to deal any, like, don't want to shoot them, but it's small enough that, and powerful enough, that can hold an objective at the end of the game. It's one of the few units that'll get a good cover save when being fearless. Because remember, Dark Eldar get power from pain, so turn 5 or sooner, they become fearless, which means they can't go to ground. Which means, if you get shot and you're in cover, you better hope you're in cover. And you better hope you have some models left, or you're going to have to rely on just stock cover. Whereas Mandrakes can be fearless, and they have stealth and shrouded. Which means that, even being fearless, they're going to be great in cover. Which means they can hold on to those objectives towards the end of the game. They can just really be a thorn on your opponent's battle plan. And they're not that stingy. In combat, unless they have Feel No Pain, they're pretty much going to die if you get charged and you don't have Feel No Pain yet. So keep them out of combat for at least till turn 3. Run away. Just run away. Honestly, they have move through cover. Get them out of there. Don't waste them. Hide them behind line of sight blocking like terrain. It's like this, and just put them right in there so that nobody can see them. And that is my vision of folks using Mandrakes. You know, also outflanking. You know, having that tactical capacity to outflank and then combine it with, say, a webway portal and really kind of see where it's coming in, and then use the Mandrakes outflanking with the webway portal strike force to hit on one flank and try and crumble it. Whether it's by shooting with the Soul Blaze stuff and then flaming, or flaming and then mopping up the survivors with the shooting from the Mandrakes. You know, trying to time it so that it happens. Hey, that'd be kind of cool to see. So let me know what you think. You know, let down in the comments, send me an email, you know, put a like button, subscribe if you really like the Tactica series and all the battle reports. Share it with your friends if they're budding Archons and they're trying to figure out what to do with their army. And let me know what you think. I love the comments. I try and answer them as fast as I can. Other than that, this is Skari, your grateful host. Thanks a lot for tuning in to one more Tactica video, and we shall be back with the next one. Skari, out.